In Nebraska, water is managed by two separate but equally important groups. The Nebraska Department of Natural Resources, who manages surface water, and the 23 Nebraska natural resource districts that manage groundwater. LB 962, passed in 2004, brings the two together to manage surface water and groundwater conjunctively. These are their stories.
Hi everybody, it's Alexa for another episode of Around the Water Cooler with NEDNR. Today I'm talking to Pat with Upper Niobrara White NRD. Pat, do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, I'd love to. Thanks for having me today, Alexa. I'm Pat O'Brien. I'm the General Manager of the Upper Niobrara White Natural Resources District located in Chadron, Nebraska. I've been there since 2013, so going on my 13th year now. I actually hail from the eastern part of the state, so moving out west was quite a change, an enjoyable one at that.
You said that your district is up near Chadron. Do you want to give us a little bit of background about your district?
Certainly. We are in the northwest corner of the state. We have 4 counties that we cover: Dawes, Sioux, the northern 2/3 of Sioux, Box Butte and Sheridan County. Close to 4.5 million acres of there, pretty diverse. We go from the Pine Ridge to the Sand Hills to the Shortgrass Prairie, up on the tables to farm ground, rangeland, etc. Really diverse mix of land use out in the area. We also have quite a diverse rainfall mix out in the area. We go from 12 inches up in the far northwest corner down to almost 19 inches down in the southeast corner. So we have unique land use because of that.
I bet. So with unique land use, what can you say about the water management that's going on up there?
So one of the things that we have to have out there is we need supplemental irrigation to grow crops. And we have quite a small, in comparison to other districts, irrigated ground. We have about 260,000 groundwater irrigated acres. We have a 5,000 acre surface water irrigation project in the Whitney area, and then we have Mirage Flats, which is a combination of surface and groundwater in the Mirage Flats area just south of Hay Springs. Interestingly enough, north of the Pine Ridge, there's very little groundwater. There's small aquifers out there. They yield pretty small, so we don't have a lot of irrigated ground with groundwater north of the Pine Ridge. So that puts us down in Box Butte County is probably our primary one, with about 2/3 of our irrigated acres down there. Because of the intense irrigation acres and where they are in proximity to each other, we have seen some declines. There's no doubt about the declines we've seen. You see every map, there's a big red bullseye around Alliance, and that's because of development has occurred probably about the 1930s and start building up and to the point of the board needing to put in a well moratorium, because we've seen declines of 40 to 60 feet in those areas over time. The good thing is a lot of the areas where we've seen decline, there is quite a bit of saturated thickness, so we do have a lot of groundwater available. It's just a matter of using it and spreading it out and making that aquifer last as possible. So in 2003, the board took action to initiate a moratorium on well development, and then went into full management with allocations, restrictions on new certified irrigated acres, metering, etc. through most of the district. 2 of the areas in Box Butte County Mirage Flats that are allocated at this point, well moratorium through the rest of the district, and we have meters on every system out there, every high capacity well, and we read those meters every year, and we provide that information back to the producer for them to know if they have what water they have available based on their allocation, or just what their water using, even if they are not in an allocated area. So it's pretty intense. There's quite a few upset people, as you can imagine, when you're starting to regulate, but over time I believe that the producers got used to what's actually being done. One of the unique things we have out there is the climate, as I indicated, that it's drier. I didn't indicate that, but it's great. It is much drier. I hate humidity, and I'm a humidity snob now. I'll admit to that. But because of the climate we have out there, the couple of the crops that we grow that aren't really known around the state are sugar beets. Sugar beets like warm days and cool nights. They also like a lot of water. So pretty much the whole western third of Nebraska has sugar beets on there, and they use a little bit more water than corn actually does, believe it or not. With that, we we have probably what I'm going to call a 5-crop rotation out there with people trying to manage. So we have corn, obviously. Everyone in Nebraska grows corn at some point. Dry edible beans. Nebraska is the largest producer of dry edible beans in the nation. We have potatoes as another one. They also like the warm days and the cool nights. And then wheat is going to be part of it. And then sometimes we'll throw alfalfa or millet in there. So our producers are really trying to work with the water they have available. They'll split pivots, put half corn, half wheat to have a high use crop, a low use crop. So they're really making sure that they're managing the available water that they have, and ensuring that aquifer is going to be around for a while.
A lot of different managements that are going on with water, a lot of different land uses and different crops. Do you have like a really good system of education, of cost shares, of sharing information? It sounds like so much is going on in your area. Initially,
when they first went into the allocations and the meters and everything, there was quite a bit of confusion that we're going to take their water and tax their water. And I always get I get the conversation when we get to the end of an allocation period where you're taking my water. My response is, I'm not taking it, it's still there. There's nowhere I can take your water. So it's really was important initially to get those information out there to folks about what your options are available to you, because they weren't regulated. I mean, they literally went from no regulation to instant regulation in about a period of about 2 years, so having to adjust to that. So over the time, we had several producer meetings and producer-to-producer meetings and crop consultant meetings, but we've actually gotten away from it a little bit with the producers because they're doing a good job. We still have some people that you've got to try to bring along slowly, and we have new people coming into the area who buy irrigated ground and try to educate them. So it is, but really now we're focused on kids to try to get that next generation coming up at the high school level, the college level, and even at the 5th grade level, where we're trying to get those kids who we want to make sure come back to the farm realize that there is a future out there because of the management we're doing. Okay, can you tell the listeners a little bit about the water quality that's happening in your district? Well, one of the good things that we have seen, or not seen, I should say, is we're not experiencing widespread nitrate problems throughout the district, which is a good thing. I think there's a lot of reasons for that out there, and this is me. I'm not putting any scientific research into it, but one of the things that we are very fortunate to have is we have almost 2/3 of our systems chemigate. So they're actually doing that in-season application, which is actually one of the things that's promoted quite often. The other thing that I believe that is helping us out is we don't see a lot of fall fertilization, which is wonderful most of the time because they're still trying to get their crops out of the ground during the fall time when most people would be applying. And then the final thing is our soil temperature gets colder quicker and it stays colder longer, so we're not seeing the movement or the change of the nitrogen into nitrate, so it's a positive thing. So we are fortunate in that area that our groundwater quality is in good shape. So a little bit shorter on the quantity, but a little bit better on the quality. So. Well, it's always good to hear. Do you want to highlight any partnerships maybe that you have throughout the state of any of your projects? Well, one of the things we really try to do is work with the surface water irrigation districts, not so much with Whitney because they're fully surface water, but as I indicated earlier, Mirage Flats is a combination of surface water and groundwater, so they do have both resources available to them. Of course, they're paying for their surface water, so they want to use that first, but it's an overbuilt system. In other words, they expected to get 10, 12 inches a year, and usually they're getting 6 or 7, so they do have to go back to groundwater to try to supplement that crop. We really try to work with them to understand the combination and how they work, and if you use, we prefer to use a little more surface water because if you're putting that on, you're going to leave water in place for the next year, etc. And then in the past, we've worked with them on irrigation scheduling and soil moisture metering and everything out that comes with that. As part of all that, though, and on a district-wide basis, we're also preparing a weekly crop water use report where we have producers throughout the district will measure evapotranspiration and precipitation and then report to us the stage of the crops they're in, corn, soybeans, edible beans, etc. And then looking at some of the literature values, we'll be able to say, here's how much corn used last week. You can compare that back to how much you may or may not have put on and say, okay, maybe I over-applied, maybe I didn't. And then on the other side, we'll project the next week based on what you've seen in the stage of the crop or second. So it's just some education that I guess we're trying to really help those producers make the best decision. And the best thing is they have a meter on every pivot, so they know exactly how much water they have put on if they choose to read that meter. Yeah, I feel like knowing what you have and what you're using definitely helps. Off the top of my head, this is like totally putting you on the spot.
lot. If somebody wanted to come to your district, what is something that you would tell them that they should go do or that they should go see?
There's quite a few things out there, as I indicated, it's unique. And I always tell people that agate fossil beds is kind of neat because you can actually find an agate out there. However, I get reminded by my wife that there are rattlesnakes out there too, so you have to watch out for the rattlesnakes as well. But agate is probably the best thing to do out there if you're into nature and geology.
It is really beautiful up there. I have seen it before. If anybody was listening to this podcast and was interested in what's happening at your district, could they go to your website for more information?
Actually, they could go to our website, which is www.unwnrd.org, and we have a Twitter account, which I don't run, but we have a Twitter account, and we have a Facebook page as well on there. So we put a lot of information out there. I've got some techie staff that are really happy to do that, and they're trying to update that on a frequent basis.
That's awesome. I love that.